Welcome back to OM Expat. And thank you for being here with us again. I made just one earlier podcast, and it was I had every intention to make another video, another podcast, um, maybe two or three since that time. But I was away for a couple of days, still trying to get over a really bad cold. So hopefully I'll be able to get through making this particular video podcast um, without coughing. But thank you again for joining us, and let's get started. I actually had intended was to make a video on the new EES border management system that's going to be introduced in the European Union, and however, I've been seeing everywhere about the new passport or proposed HR 5300 passport rules that may be implemented in the US. It has not been implemented as yet. There has been some hysteria about it, only because a lot of the clause that would make it possible to deny or revoke one's passport is quite broad. And because of that, I think it's had a number of expats and those who enjoy traveling, causing some kind of anxiety amongst that group. So let's decode a little more about this. Now, let's see, I'm not sure if I want to give my opinion right away, but let's go through this and see what it means. Let's unpeel things here. On this channel, it's not about causing any kind of hysteria. I want to come each week to you with the right information, with the information. And if you have any questions, or if there's anything else that you would like to add, something that I may have missed, by all means, do put it right there in the comments section. I'm really looking forward to getting your feedback. So once again, let's take a look at what this is all about. And again, welcome to OM Expat again. HR 53 is a state policy provision act. It was proposed in the House of Representatives, and it aims to make significant changes in various aspects of US foreign policy and the operations uh, of the US State Department. This includes processing it includes processes surrounding US passport application and renewal. Now, with everything that's really happening right now in the US, I was a bit surprised that this would be on top of the list of things that needed to be changed. I mean, for many of you who actually who's had a passport for many years, particularly for many of those of us that live abroad, to me it seems to be quite streamlined. The process seems quite efficient, and I was a bit surprised. I didn't I would assume, or I thought that perhaps there would have been other things that needed to be addressed. That's on top of the list, and not necessarily the passport. But anyway, here we are. Um, so key provisions of this HR 53. Again, it's related to passports, so that's correct. And while the bill includes a variety of provisions regarding international relations, security, And functioning of the State Department, one of its most significant proposed changes impacts, again, passport application and the renewal process. Here are some of the provisions. So I'm going to go through what some of these are. I'll try my best to kind of expand on some of those, and I'll tell you maybe which ones I probably will find a little more that may be a bit burdensome for expats. Some of those we may want to pay attention to a little closer. Um, but, here we are. Here we are, expats. So I'll number these. So number one, it's streamline, again, passport processing, and it's supposed to expedite the passport services. And the bill actually, here it would propose um, uh, expedited process for Americans who need to get their passports quickly. And I think this was coming out of there were a lot of like delays, and there are backlogs from the COVID-19 pandemic. And so, what the State Department is hoping to do is to set like clear timeframes, um, and I guess maybe to mandate clearer timelines, you know. And so the second one would be what they're hoping to achieve here is to add like a new passport fee structure. And it includes, so again, this HR 5300 includes provisions that could adjust the passport fees. And they're hoping to do this whereby it would align the fees with inflation, and offering more a, I guess maybe more a different type of system. And I guess when inflation goes up, they're hoping to increase the fees. Will we get a reduction in fees once the inflation comes down? Who knows? But this it so if for many of us, this particular proposal, we will likely be seeing passport the cost of getting obtaining a passport increase. And the increase, the adjustment probably will be a lot more frequent. um, and it will be adjusted based on inflation. They're also hoping to improve the application system. And again, for many people who've had a passport, I've had a passport since I was a child. For to me, it seems as though the application system is very well streamlined, but they're hoping to improve that somewhat, a lot more. It pushes for enhancements to the online application system, and they're hoping to allow more digital applications and making the process less cumbersome. And as I said, here they're saying is to modernize the State Department digital infrastructure. I do not think that that's probably needed. I reading this, I would want to know who is getting money to make these changes, because, as mentioned, it seemed quite streamlined already. I don't, at least I did not feel that it was cumbersome. But with all of these changes, you are going to have different businesses that are going to get the contracts to make these quote unquote changes to the infrastructure of the passports. And so perhaps there's a little, more that's involved in these changes that are really not necessary. Number four would be like digital passport options. And they are exploring a digital or an e-passport. And the bill opens the door for introduction to digital passports. It did not say that we're going to have it, but it opens the door to it. And as you know, I'm going to be speaking more on what's happening in the EU area on that. So the European Union is a little more, um, in terms of introducing that, is a little more farther along, let's say. So let's see what happens. And the idea has been discussed globally, and HR 5300 would push the US to expand and test e passports. So it is. They're also hoping to expand the who's able to get the passport and who's able to renew passports. Expansion of renewal by mail. They're hoping to expand on that, and they're hoping to, by expanding um, uh, and the renewal process, that more people will be able to be covered under this. And they are hoping to enhance passport security as well, as part of the efforts to modernize the passport issuance. The bill also touches on the need for additional security features. And I think this is also part of what a lot of people are a bit worried about. And I'll get more into that. They're hoping to increase focus on passport fraud prevention, and I think that that's very good. Um, but the way they're doing it is by training of passport examiners, and I believe a lot of the fraud probably may take place elsewhere, but it would be interesting to see the information that they're getting. So, in hoping to train passport examiners, they're hoping to um, prevent fraud. Now, again, so they're telling us that they're hoping to have faster processing time, greater compliance, updated fees, more secure passports. And so they're saying this is why it's important to modernize and to streamline the passport processes. And but I think also what people are actually up in arms about is the reasons now that they're introducing that one can get a passport revoked, um, and or denied. And I want to review some of that. So here are some of the grounds, and they've added more grounds here to it. And some of the grounds are pretty vague, and it's left up to the State Department, or it's left up to different departments to do this. So one would be any kind of outstanding federal warrants or criminal charges. They can deny your passport for that. Okay. So two would be any kind of unpaid child support. And that is if one owes more than $2,500 in child support. I I remember many years ago, there was someone that I knew, and he was not able to get, an American that lived where I am, a passport because he had owed child support back in the U.S. And it wasn't that much, and he couldn't get one, and he was not able to be a citizen in where I am, um, where I was at the time. So I think he was trying to get an Italian passport through lineage. And there are a number of European countries, and later on we'll go through what those are. Not in this particular segment, but I'll just dedicate one video for that, because there are still many European countries that one is able to get their passport, or to get residency through lineage. or even citizenship through lineage. So he was going to Italy hoping, hoping to get a passport through his lineage. And I'm not really quite sure how that worked out for him because we had, of course, he left and we had lost contact. But yeah, so anyone that owes child support, they're not able um, to get a passport. Um, any kind of tax debit, and this, I think this is here is a new one that they've had in terms of lowering the threshold for what can be which Americans would be able to be denied for owing taxes. So there's this Fixing America's Surface Transportation Act, known as the FAST Act. And with this particular act that was introduced, the IRS can certify seriously delinquent tax debt. And what they're calling serious is over 59,000 in 2025, and that amount is not just what's owed, but that amount includes the penalties that they add on top of that, along with the interest. So you could literally owe like 5,000 or 8,000, 10,000, and because of the penalties and interest that was added onto that, you might be at like 59,000, and they can actually deny you. Um, which I think that this is going to affect many people because it will be up to the State Department whether or not to deny or to revoke your passport based on this particular certification. And as mentioned, even it looks as though even if you are on a payment plan, there may still be grounds or it would be up to the State Department whether or not to deny, or the ball will be in their court, even if you are making payments. So this will exclude, I think, quite a few people from getting a passport, and I think and why many people are worried about it. So number four, also it has to do with fraud or misuse. Um, and so is if you receive the passport under, with false document, if you obtain your passport through fraud, it can be revoked. And then there's five would be national security or foreign policy concern. Um, so this would be if the government believes that your travel poses a threat to U.S. national security or foreign policy interests. Now, the foreign policy interest is where also there are many people are saying, well, that's quite vague. Um, but whatever they deemed that could be a threat to quote unquote foreign policy interest, then it can be revoked. And that is vague enough to revoke many persons that may be active online, may be active in social media, um, that may be voicing an opinion. If they deem that as not being within America's foreign interests, you can be denied. So perhaps this would be the time um, to moderate what you say, or to manage uh, your social media and what you were saying. And for many people who believe in free speech, that could be, or who voice certain opinions, that could be an issue in the future. Um, these things have a way of remaining on there, and even with a new administration, that would probably be a little more democratic, as what I would think. It could probably remain for quite some time. So just be very careful and, what you do online. Now, they can also revoke if you have a court order or any kind of parole restrictions. And parole restrictions. So, yeah, so they can revoke. Now, number seven is also what many people are concerned about as well, because they can revoke for mental incompetence. And it is done in rare cases, but it really does depend on the State Department. And so, yeah, someone can be denied if they're declared legally incompetent or unable to manage their own affairs. Um, for someone that might be in deep depression. Um, but as mentioned, it's rarely used, but that with all of these, it really depends on the State Department. Now, I wanted to also talk about this section four that many people were talking about, the authority to deny or revoke passport based on material support for what is deemed terrorism. And so excuse me, this section of the bill authorizes the U.S. Secretary of State to deny, revoke, or limit passport of any U.S. citizen if there is credible information that the individual has provided material support or resources to a foreign terrorist organization. And on the surface, of course, we understand why that would be. However, many groups and many political parties that were deemed as terrorist organizations, you know, um, with some administrations are no longer deemed with other administrations. So again, this could be quite flexible in denying someone. And of course, material support would be providing money, transportation, logistics, services. If you donated to many of these, to different groups that may be deemed a terrorist organization, you can get that. It can be denied. Um, I think at one time the ANC was deemed a terrorist organization, and certain political parties are deemed that. So, it, you know, it could be a way to and that changes again with different administrations. So it's going to be really interesting to see how that manifests in the future. Now, what does revocation means of a passport? It really does mean that if your passport is revoked, um, your passport will no longer be valid for travel. If you are abroad, so if you are an expat, and this channel has we talk a lot about expat living and many expats that are already abroad, um, you may be asked to return to the U.S. and it would be an limited use passport for direct return only may be issued. Now, once you are in the U.S., then you know for whatever reason it was revoked for, um, perhaps things would escalate in terms of how you would be treated if you will have your freedom, etc. So it's more than just that. And you will be added to what they call, and many people are not aware of this, but there is a passport lockout list. And so your passport will be flagged, and you will not be able to go anywhere, will not be able to travel, or anything of that sort. So that's really what it is. I wanted to bring this to you, um, and there's been, a lot of people are online and are not happy about this, because I read many of the areas of the bill that will make it easier to revoke one's passport. And again, this will be the HR 5300, the State Department Act. It is an act, it has been proposed. It was introduced by the US House of Representatives, a Republican, and let's see, what happens with this. But it has not been passed as yet, so more to come. And perhaps the bill will not be as it is right now because maybe there'll be markups and there'll probably be changes to the bill. And it's really something that we need to keep our eyes on. And so with that, there it is. No need for hysteria. You have you know, the facts now. And so we would just know as expats that we would have to move accordingly. And if you have not gotten your second passport, that maybe now is the time to do so. For many of you who are lucky to be able to get your passports through lineage, it's perhaps now is the time. Contact OM Expat, info at omexpat.com, and that is info at omexpat.com. You will also see our information in the description box. So don't play around with this. If you want to continue to have your flexibility, your freedom, your democracy, perhaps it is time for you to take action so that you will have many options. And I will leave it as that. Thank you again for joining us here on OM Expat. And I'm looking forward to seeing you again and bringing more information to you. Please do not forget to like and subscribe, share our channel. We're going to be doing big things on this channel. And yes, so also be on the lookout. We'll be discussing the new key features of the EES and which will affect the European Union. But for many expats and also Americans and others, you'll want to also be up to date on this. So that will be coming next. Thanks again for watching, and thank you for supporting us. Have a fantastic week, and join us again soon. Bye bye.